Their armies were glorious, invincible. Tens of thousands of proud rat warriors marching over the lands above, laying waste to everything in their path. When Grey Seer Skritar had seen the moon bleeding tears of warpstone, they had turned east, back towards the misty peaks of the World's Edge Mountains. To cross the swollen waters of the River Ster, the Grey Seer ordered the construction of a mighty wooden bridge. Many slaves died felling the great oak trees and toppling them into the river. Many more died when the Grey Seer sacrificed their souls in thanks for the army's safe passage. East of the river the land became wilder and less populated, and the Skaven army made good time through the woods and over the moors. They were possessed by a strange urgency, as if something was pulling them irresistibly forward. The eyes of the Grey Seer burned with naked warplust as he urged his troops onwards. As Skritar became more and more preoccupied, his apprentices began to scheme behind his back. Kraslik, too, could feel the calling of the warpstone. He started to hear whispers in his mind which grew and grew, until a constant stream of alien thoughts washed through him. Plots, schemes, tales of treachery, promises of power, fragments of ancient evil spells. A terrible madness burned through Kraslik and gnawed at his soul. He began to crave power for its own sake. One fell night, when thunder clashed and lightning split the sky, he murdered the other two apprentices and consumed their souls in an orgy of destruction. After that, his power burned stronger, and he deliberately began to plot the downfall of Skritar. Confident and purposeful, the Skaven force reached the borders of the lands known to men as Sylvania. Grey Seer Skritar drove his troops harder and harder, forcing them to march until they could move their heavy limbs no more. Kraslik moved among the wary rat warriors like an evil shadow, spreading dissension and malice. When they found the first meteor, Skritar cracked it open and consumed the warpstone immediately to boost his power, and Kraslik hated him for it. For the first week after they crossed over the border into Sylvania, the Skaven encountered no opposition. The few human settlements that they came across were deserted. Skritar proclaimed that the humans had fled before the advance of the Skaven army, and no one gainsaid him. They found only a few tiny meteors, which Skritar took for himself and kept on his person. Kraslik's resentment grew, and he became insanely jealous. In the foothills of the World's Edge Mountains, beside a nameless town of drab stone buildings, the Skaven met their first opposition. A small force of humans attacked them. They were men, but not men. Some looked like walking cadavers, others were nothing more than skeletons hung with rags. Even to Skaven, accustomed to foul odours, the stench of rot and decay was nauseating. And how they fought. These undead men never tired, never ran away. True, they were slow where the nimble Skaven could twist, run and dart, but they were relentless. The only way to stop them was to destroy them, hack them apart, break their skeletons into pieces and scatter the bones until the last shambling horror lay twitching on the ground. The Skaven won this first battle, but it was their first and only triumph. The further they progressed into the mountains, the more often they were attacked, and the larger the undead forces became. Even the greater frequency of the warpstone didn't help. Skritar had to eat most of it just to fuel his battle spells. As the Skaven army dwindled, and the enemy became more vicious. They had to rely increasingly on magic to survive. The Grey Seer was forced to give the odd shard of warpstone to Kraslik, so he too could use his magic against the undead. After a battle that lasted 2 long days, Grey Seer Skritar ordered the army to retreat home. They were reduced to 1/10 of their original strength. Tired and unused to defeat, their despondent warriors were fertile ground for Kraslik's sedition. Madness and jealousy boiled through his brain. Skritar was a doddering old fool. He, Kraslik, could conquer Slovenia and claim the warpstone for his own. He, Kraslik, would lead his mighty armies to conquer the other clans and claim their territory for himself. He, Kraslik, would touch the pillar, defeat one of the Lords of Decay, and take his place on the council. One night, when the moons burned high in the sky, forbidden words of power spilled from his mouth. Dark energies whirled around his body, and blood spewed from his nose and ears. A great claw sliced through the curtain of reality, and the majestic form of a vermin lord stepped into the material world. It reached down, grabbed Kraslik by his tail, and dangled the terrified Skaven before its eyes. "Ah, Kraslik," it said, in a voice redolent with ancient evil. "You have finally called me. Let us discuss my plans."